All right, so y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video and I'll go over the correct answers. So for the factoring, you're going to have x minus 5 times x minus 8. For the math knowledge question, we have a tank on a tractor that can hold 16 gallons of gas. The tractor requires 7 gallons to plow 3 acres. How many acres can the tractor plow with a tank full of gas? So you're basically just going to set up a ratio. 7 gallons to 3 acres is 16 gallons to how many acres? And so then you can cross multiply, and 7a will equal 48, and then you divide by 7, and 48 over 7 is 7 and 6, not 7, it is 6 and 6/7. So A. Okay, so for the lesson today, we're doing lesson 17. We're going to look at more conditional statements. So we talked about conditional statements back in lesson 10, and so hopefully you'll understand inverse and contrapositives of conditional statements after today. So we're going to go back over hypothesis and conclusion. If tomorrow is Wednesday, then yesterday was Monday. So the hypothesis would be tomorrow is Wednesday. The conclusion would be yesterday was Monday. So we've been doing that for a couple of weeks, so hopefully you got that part right. For the second part, if the original statement is true, so if tomorrow is Wednesday, yesterday was Monday, that means today is Tuesday. It asks, is the converse true? So we talked about converse a few weeks ago. So the converse is if Q, then P. So if yesterday was Monday, then tomorrow is Wednesday. And if yesterday was Monday, tomorrow is Wednesday. Is that a true statement? Yes, the converse is true. Okay, so now we're going to look at negating. So if you negate something, you take the negation of it. That's just taking the opposite of the statement. So we want to identify the hypothesis and conclusion, and then we want to write the negation of each. So the hypothesis would be a figure has 8 sides. The conclusion would be the figure is an octagon. So that's the hypothesis and conclusion. To negate them, we just need to put a not somewhere in there. It does need to make grammatical sense, so make sure that it makes sense when you read it. So if you want to write negation, it's that little symbol. So the negation of the hypothesis, a figure does not have 8 sides. And then the negation of the conclusion would be the figure is not an octagon. So that's how you negate a hypothesis and a conclusion. So the inverse of your conditional statement is formed whenever you negate your hypothesis and conclusion. So that's why we need to know how to negate hypotheses and conclusions. So the inverse of P then Q is if not P, then not Q. The converse of a conditional statement and the inverse of the conditional statement always have the same truth value. So if your converse is true, your inverse is true. If your converse is false, your inverse is false. They are always either both true or both false. And whenever you have conditional statements that have the same truth value, they're called logically equivalent. So the converse and the inverse are logically equivalent statements because they're either both true or both false. So we want to write the inverse of the statement below, and is it true? And is the original statement true? So the first thing to do the inverse, you're going to do not P, not Q. So if a number is not divisible by 2, so that means if a number is divisible by 2, you don't want to put a double negative in there, then the number is not odd. So if a number is divisible by 2, then the number is not odd. What does not odd mean? Something is not odd, it is even. So if a number is divisible by 2, then the number is even. That is true. So the inverse is true. Now the original statement. If a number is not divisible by 2, then the number is odd. It is also true. Both of these are either going to be true or false. So really, you only have to decide is one of them true or false, and then you know if the other one is true or false. So if one of them is kind of confusing, look and see if the other one is a little bit easier for you to figure out. Okay? So now we're going to look at contrapositive. The contrapositive of a conditional statement is formed by exchanging and negating your hypothesis and your conclusion. So you switch them and you negate them. So if P then Q becomes if Q then, if not Q, then not P. So if not Q, then not P. Your conditional statement and your contrapositive are logically equivalent. So either both of them are true or both of them are false. I would personally write this chart down. It's a little cheat sheet to help you learn your converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So if y'all need to pause the video for a second to do that, y'all can. But it tells you your statement and then the converse, inverse, and contrapositive that go from that statement. You do need to know the difference between these four. They'll ask you, what is the converse, or what is the inverse, or what is the contrapositive? And you have to know exactly which one they're asking for. So let's write the contrapositive of this statement. If a dog eats treats, then it is happy. So you have to switch and negate. So if a dog is not happy, then it did not eat treats. So that would be your contrapositive. You could say it does not eat treats. It doesn't really matter to me. And then it says write the contrapositive of what we just wrote. So if a dog did eat treats, so if a dog eats treats, then it is not happy, so then it is happy. And what do you notice? That's the original statement that you started with. So if you take the contrapositive of the contrapositive, you get back to the original statement. So let's see if y'all can do these practice problems, and then I'll go over them. So y'all pause the video real quick and try them. So the hypothesis would be a polygon is regular. The conclusion is it is convex. Now your converse is where you just switch the two. So if a polygon is convex, then it is regular. So it says if the statement in problem A is true, is the converse true? Are the statement and converse logically equivalent? No. So just because the statement in problem A is true, that does not mean that the converse is true. If you have a polygon that is convex, it doesn't have to be regular. But if a polygon is regular, then it is a convex figure. We've talked about that. Concave figures are not regular. So if it is regular, it is a convex figure. But just because it's convex does not mean it is regular. So y'all try this one. Again, pause the video and go over it, and then I'll go over it after y'all have tried it. So the hypothesis is Darrell buys ice cream. The conclusion, he buys pretzels. The negation of the hypothesis. Darrell does not buy juice. And the negation of the conclusion, he does not buy pretzels. So that would be all you would do for that one. Looking at this one, y'all try it, and then after y'all tried it, unpause the video and I'll go over it. So the inverse is where you take them and you just negate them. So for two lines that are cut by transversal, if the lines are not parallel, then the same side interior angles are not congruent. So for two lines that are cut by transversal, if the lines are not parallel, then the same side interior angles are not congruent. That's the inverse. Is the original statement true? If your lines are parallel, then the same side interior angles are congruent. No. If lines are parallel, the same side interior angles are supplementary. So that would not be true. And then it says the inverse. If the lines are not parallel, then the same side interior angles are not congruent. This is not true either. Because if the lines are not parallel, the same side interior angles, we don't know if they're congruent or not. So it's not a true statement. They could be congruent. We don't know. We just know if they are parallel, then the same side interior angles are supplementary. Okay, so let's see if you can try these two. So y'all pause the video and then I will go over it. So the contrapositive is when you switch and negate. So if the sum of two angles is 90 degrees, then they are complementary. So if the sum of the two angle measurements is 90 degrees, then they are complementary. That would be your contrapositive. What is the converse of what we just wrote? So converse is where you switch them. I didn't write the contrapositive. I just wrote the inverse. So if the sum of the angles is not 90, then they are not complementary. So the converse would be if the two angles are not complementary, then the sum of their measures is not 90 degrees. So that would be the converse of what we just wrote. And it says, what do we notice? This is the inverse of the original statement. So that's what they're wanting you to pick up on. Okay, so now we're going to look at our challenge question for today. So we want to write a statement and its converse such that both the original statement and the converse are true. And then write another statement and its converse such that the original statement is true, but the converse is false. So y'all try this one. There are a lot of different statements that you could make about anything. And y'all can check with your partner and see if they got it right. All right, so I'll start with the second one, where the original is true, but the converse is false. So remember, converse is where they get switched. So we've gone over this one, but if it is Thanksgiving, then it is Thursday. Thanksgiving occurs on Thursday, so if it's Thanksgiving, then it is Thursday. That is true. The converse would be, if it is Thursday, then it is Thanksgiving, which is not true. So that would be for the second one. One where it would be both true for the statement and the converse. If it is December 25th, then it is Christmas. That's a true statement, right? The converse of that would be, if it is Christmas, then it is December 25th. So that is also true. And so that would be an example where both your original and your converse are true. So again, you can have lots of different examples. So if you need to talk with your neighbor or maybe a different neighbor, see if you got it right, y'all can go over those. And then after that, you can get started on your homework. It's 1 through 30. Make sure you do those tonight so we can go over any questions you have tomorrow.